the biggest point of negativity from that game for me is absolutely Tobias Harris. That I'll bring up the old Kyle Neubeck quote that he wrote last year that when you have a star-studded team in need of secondary scoring, Tobias Harris is going to give you 16. When you have a shorthanded team where you need somebody to step up, Tobias Harris is going to give you 16. And he scored 0 points in the second half in a game without Tyrese Maxey, without Joel Embiid. He also had 3 of the dumbest and just unbelievable turnovers that I've seen. The one where he just forgot whether he was dribbling or not, turned it over there. A couple other just really bad lowlights. I tweeted all of them, so you guys can check my Twitter for that for sure. What's your vibe check on Tobias Harris before I get into my next point, James?
We convince ourselves of anything with Tobias. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even really know what to make of it anymore. But like, he is exactly what he is, right? I think like every time he starts to play well, we're like, oh, like this Tobias, like if he plays like this, like watch out. He's Tobias Harris. If everyone can just temper their expectations and allow him to just be him, we'd all suffer a lot less and stop expecting him to, negate these plays, take them completely out of his arsenal, because it just is who he is. And I don't, there's at this point, like there's nothing we can do. Like resisting it at this point is just insanity, right? Like just accept it, accept he's going to have good games and you're going to be like, okay, this is good. He's going to have bad games. You're going to be like, how is this possible? And then there's going to be most of the time where he's right in the middle, where he's a good player. He does a lot of good things, not necessarily anything spectacular, but as long as he's, in the mix, you can't ask too much more of him. I don't know, man. It was a bad game. He did not step up when asked. And I think that that's like a big reason why he is where he is, but also he's done enough to earn himself a large contract. So I don't know, man. He is who he is. Tobias Harris is going to be an enigma for us for the remainder of our lives. We're going to look back at these 5 years and be like, what the hell was that? But I'm just going to allow him to be who he is and then never expect more from him.
Yeah, done enough to earn himself a nice contract is a nice way of putting. Tobias Harris is the highest paid player in NBA history to never make an all-star game. That the frustrating part about Tobias Harris is he goes through stretches of time where you can tell he consciously makes this effort to play within how he should be playing, making quick decisions, taking catch and shoot 3-pointers, but he just cannot do it in a way that's conducive to winning for the long haul. And we see the real version of Tobias Harris leak back out. And that's what's going on again this year. And the frustrating realization that kind of hit me with this specific Sixers team is Kelly Oubre, Robert Covington, and Nicholas Batum are all far more vital to this Sixers team than Tobias Harris. They each have individual skill sets that nobody else on this team possesses, including Tobias Harris, and a lot less of the bad that Tobias Harris brings. I don't really know how you swallow that from here, but would you agree with that Batum, Covington, and Oubre all do things that Tobias Harris doesn't in a way that like is more important to this Sixers team?
Yeah, I mean, like I think if you gave Kelly Oubre the same exact amount of minutes that Tobias is getting, same in terms of like opportunity to score and all of those things, like I think Oubre probably produces a very probably more. I don't want to maybe go that far, but like probably more, right? And Nick Batum it's such a vague word to say he's a connector, but on offense, he is just always making the right move and he's always doing the right thing. He's always moving to the right place. He's always making the extra pass. And sometimes it's like a dumb, like little, like just a handoff almost sometimes. He has a unbelievably quick trigger on his threes. He does like defensively, he's just smart and savvy. Like the expectation is so much lower for him as well. Like I think it's a very bad mix of like contract equals expectation equals play that has never lived up to expectation. And Tobias does those things all at once, which is bad. And then Roko's fun and like strong and big and great at deflections, great hands, good rebounder. But it's kind of just like a little tough to balance with what Tobias does or doesn't do. Like, we've kind of got to this point, like his attribute levels, like if you went into his 2K, like they'd all be just like flat along the screen like this. There's nothing that goes up.
75,
like
straight
just straight
75.
75. Like
except finishing would be like a 32.
And leadership and like book reading would be super high, which is important. Like I'm sure he's like, I know for the testimonials that we've heard, he's a great locker room presence. He's a great guy to have around, and he's important for that nature. And we can't necessarily quantify that, but on the court, I would say, yeah, they all provide something. They're all like have a unique skill that they provide. Like Kelly's athletic, great scorer, unconscious as a scorer. Batum does all these things offensively. Covington, great defender, great hands. Like Tobias doesn't have that defining
Right.
niche.
Which is what you want when
Yeah,
you're surrounding your stars, this being Joel
true.
Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. You need guys that have these specific skill sets. Tobias Harris, I think he put that in a great way of like he's pretty much a straight across the board when it comes to his attributes. The shot creation to me is the most frustrating thing. Like I don't understand why he can't really do it. There have been stretches where you see it, where especially like the size difference. Like Tobias Harris is 6'9" and athletic, and too often he seems to forget that he does not punish guys. He does not use his physicality and size and frame, which is maddening. And then defensively, Robert Covington's absolutely better than him. I want Covington to become more of a Nick Nurse guy. It feels like Nurse has not quite found the attachment to Covington yet, and I think he should. I think he's awesome. I really think Covington has among, if not the best hands in the NBA defensively. He's everywhere on defense, man. 7'2" wingspan, uses it really well, leading the NBA in deflections, all of these things. Super impressive. Batum, a connector is a great word for him, the playmaking, and just the willingness to shoot is night and day from Tobias. The quick release, the way that he does it, that's super important to this team. And Oubre, the shot creation, it's massive gap between him and Tobias, just his ability and willingness to go get his own bucket. And defensively, I honestly think I'm rolling with Oubre over Tobias for a lot of moments too. I've been really impressed with the way he competed. I'm pretty much going to have to reevaluate that based on going forward after the start of the year. It was kind of a brief honeymoon period, so it wouldn't surprise me if he does settle down on the defensive side of the ball throughout the length of the year. But I was really impressed with what Oubre did. So kind of as you're building this team and we get into these like roster construction conversations, I don't see anything that Tobias Harris does that has to be on this team. And especially when we talk about making these trade pieces. I get the relief of playing out the contract, getting it off the books, all these things as offseason, but I'm much more willing to include Tobias Harris in the trade than I am of any of the three that I mentioned there.